Hello, House of Metamorphosis Tribe. I wanted to get on here today on this new moon in Pisces and just speak to the energy at the moment, what's moving through me, and what is moving around me, what I've become aware of, and speak a little to the transformation that I've been going through. I know I talk about transformation on this channel a lot. And I speak about, moving through transformation and actually embracing authenticity and what it means to actually journey with people when they're moving through transition and transformation and rites of passage. And I felt to come and share my story with you today on this new moon in Pisces. And just to give you a little context, my Venus is in Pisces and it's in my first house. So this experience that I am moving through on a personal level is been an 8-year journey of understanding relationship and relating. And that's what Venus stands for. And it's in my first house, so it's actually about a primary characteristic. How I meet the world and how the world sees me is through relationship and connection. And it's coming to an end, the Pisces story. For those of you that don't really understand astrology, I'm just going to drop into it here. Astrology has been my passion now. It's been my passion my whole life, but I've really gotten into the deep study of astrology in the last 4 years, and wanted to really deeply understand the formation of planets, the houses, how it affects us, how to work in a more authentic way with people based on their blueprint, their birth charts. So using my birth chart in this instance of having a conversation with you and having Venus in Pisces in my first house is about me being seen in the world characteristically as a romantic, stepping into the illusion of relationship has been one of my shadows. I'm just going to speak through the lessons of relating of Venus in the first house in Pisces. The illusion of the shadow of relationship, romance, connection, being with other people and jumping to the gun, projecting my idea of people immediately. And I'm talking about a romantic sense more than a professional level, because in a professional capacity, it's really interesting. As a therapist in a professional capacity, I would never do any of the things that I do in relationship and relating interpersonally with clients as I have done, operated in my personal life. And it's what I've learned is as soon as my emotional body, my heart, let's just say, gets entangled with another person or starts feeling in the past, starting to feel something for another person, I immediately in my shadow project my idea of them that I have of them onto them, and I don't really see who they really are. So I'm taking all the interesting relational experiences I've had in the last decade, let's just say, have all taking accountability from my part in why they have failed, have all come from a place of projected ideology and projected essence, that my lens, my vision of them projected onto them, and then waking up and then realizing that it was all an illusion, and what I was really seeing, or what I thought I was seeing, wasn't really there, and therefore the relationship would collapse. So, and this spiral's been going on for quite some time, been, following that thread now since my childhood to unravel it. And of course, as we all know, like a lot of our programs and stories come from our childhood, and our first precipitating, reflective, relational dynamics are mum and dad, and what those dynamics and how those dynamics actually play out in your life as an adult over time without you realizing it. So it's been not a projection onto anybody, but it's been a process of actually unfurling and unwinding that part of me relationally, and that story, that Pisces in Venus first house story of, well, how can I do things differently, and what kind of relationship do I really want with others? Like, how do I really want to relate, and what is it going to take from me in terms of the story, that program in me, to unfurl and to actually come back to ground zero and create relational dynamics from people from a very clear, very authentic, very realistic place. And it's taken me to sort of like realize that I need to step back and sit back and just observe people in how they approach me, what they share with me, how they show up for me, their words and their actions, whether they meet and whether they align. And also it's triggered in me this capacity to become discerning and allow my intuition to override my emotional body. And that's been the biggest part, being an empath, Pisces in Venus in the first house, the caretaker, the mother, let me fix that for you. That story has been playing out. And it's like about like allowing other people to take charge of their own life and not needing to fix anybody, not needing to resolve other people's issues. This is the shadow of Pisces, is needing to fix everybody, support everybody, care for everybody at our own expense. And so a story that I've been actually moving through, and I wanted to come on here and just speak authentically with you about the transformation that I'm going through. Like I talk about transformation here all the time. And I think there's something very valuable in showing up. And I suppose I couldn't really talk about this until I've come to this moment right now in this day where I can see the whole thread. It's like literally I've pulled a thread and the whole thing's unraveled and it's dropped away, and I can see it very clearly, every element of it very clearly. And I am able to have this conversation now. And sometimes we can't have these conversations, because we're not seeing it clearly. It hasn't actually all arrived, hasn't fallen into place. We haven't moved through the motions we need to move through in order to actually gain clarity. So, and in this moment of clarity, and it's very rare that I come on, I'm always speaking authentically. When I do my videos, it's authentic, but it's always about the work and about the direction of how we can do our work more authentically and more congruently. I never really talk about my personal journey. And I'm being a Capricorn sun, letting you know, and an Aquarius rising, an Aquarius moon. I'm very private. So there's this really big part of me that's extremely private, and I don't talk about my personal life at all, ever, especially on social media, because it's something that's it's sacred to me and my life and the people that are in my life. So I keep it like that, and I like to keep a boundary around that between my personal life and social out there in the world. And I feel like this little piece, why I reflecting upon it, and why I feel like it's important showing up in this vulnerable state of expressing and exposing authenticity, is because there's quite a powerful, I've always believed, and I am like this in my personal relationships. There's a lot of power behind vulnerability, and there's a lot of power behind being courageously vulnerable and showing up, and sometimes not, not aware. Just have a little sip of a drink. And sometimes not really aware of what we're stepping into what we're actually meeting when we're unsure. And sometimes that's okay. But what I find is like being a deep personal intellect and reflector and a committed journaler. Like I think today I've spent 4 hours journaling already. So, and that's pretty, I do about 3 hours a day of journaling, and it's like an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and an hour before I go to bed. So it's a very, 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 very well-oiled practice that I've been doing now for like 26 years. So it's been a long time that I've been journaling in this way. And so I find that, my unpack comes from reflection, from meditation, from maybe movement. And then I sit down and I write about what's come up, what curiosities have shown up in my body in any of those activities or none of those activities. Sometimes it's just waking up from bed, and then, those reflections and those awarenesses are there. So I write about them, and I prefer to write about and unpack and really, really connect with the language that's coming out of my body, so that I can actually find the place in where it lands in my cellular body, where it lands in my system. And then from that place, be able to congruently and respectfully articulate what it is that I'm moving through. And I suppose it's a level of maturity. When we come into a stage. I mean, I'm in my mid-50s now, and coming into a stage where, hey, the delicacies, the fine pieces of being human become so much louder as I'm maturing. And the noise of needing to be out there in the world and doing the things and being a part of the things, and it recedes into the background. This is my experience of what's going on. And then the finite, the silent aspects of the self seem to get louder and louder and take up more room. So they need more space in order to unpack and be with. So silence and solitude are my go-to in doing this. And I spend a lot of time in solitude, and I spend a lot of time in silence. I can spend days not speaking to anybody, and just deeply working, because a lot of my work is writing. So there's not just journaling, but I actually write as well. So there's this part of me that actually needs the solitude and the silence in order to allow the words, the language, the images to come up and to show me how they need to be presented and put together. And that includes myself, how I need to be put together, what pieces need to fall away, and what new pieces are emerging that need to be put together, that need to be integrated and embodied. So the last 5 years I've been going through, since menopause, since I hit 50, the last 5 years I've been going through this really incredible transformation. Incredible. Probably one of the most cathartic transformations and the most potent transformations I've ever had in my life. And I've had 2 children, so this is a big, big call. As a woman, the transformation as a woman, as like coming into the sovereignty of my essence and owning who it is and what it is that I am at a core essence of a soul connection, where the soul in me is actually united, one with spirit, one with self. And the language is actually integrated and embodied in that place. And you're receiving that congruency of that connection, that soul connection, that truthful, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical embodiment of the self. And I'm not saying I'm done. Oh God, I hope not. Like I hope that there's the evolution continues and the growth and the learning continues, because that inspires me to be alive, is, the curiosity of being alive and the constants of, the evolution of our humanity, the evolution of ourselves and the self, myself, and allowing evolution to teach me what it needs to teach me, to evolve into a constant upgraded version of myself. And this is the work that I do. And the reason why I decided to show up and speak to this is because this is what I stand for. This is the work that I do with people. And now, teaching hairdressers how to do this work as well. And the beauty of it is that it's no longer elusive. It has substance. There's a purpose for why we're doing what we're doing. And that is to enable a client to get closer, a person, forget the word client, let's drop that, a person to get closer to the essence of their soul, to the essence of their true south, their true north, their true being. And how that dictates the journey, and you just being the guide and supporting this journey, this transformation, this ongoing transformation. It never ends. And this is why I'm saying, like, it's more than the hair. Taking a person on a journey of transformation is everlasting. Haircuts come and go, but the actual journey, the soulful journey, doesn't. It is continuous. It is something that you will stand beside when somebody's found a guide that supports them and knows their soul and knows their story. Which is the reason why people come to see hairdressers, is because they've developed this resonance with their stylist. And the stylist knows their story. They don't need to repeat themselves. Sometimes it's silently knowing, and it's enough. It's comforting. So there's real beauty in what goes on in transformation. And it's not just about embracing the hair and changing the hair and doing that. That's part of the reflection of the evolution of a human. But I'm talking about the intricacies of actually really going deeply with a client and allowing more and more and more room to be acquired for them to step deeper and deeper and deeper into themselves. And you support them by expressing them deeper and deeper and deeper by your reflective capacity and creativity. So yeah, and I'm moving through this, and I'm coming into this time in my life of, stepping into the archetype of the Maga, which is a woman going through menopause. It's actually the shamanic word for a woman moving through menopause. She's called a Maga. We no longer actually step into crone. Is actually a lot later. It's in the late 60s that women step into crone. And the intermediary after Queen is actually Maga, and that's the archetype that we step into. So I'm really in the juice of the Maga. And the Maga is a woman that has stopped bleeding, that is no longer, can no longer actually bear children, and is finally, for the first time in her life, since she was an adolescent, has come back to her autonomy and sovereignty, where her biology is no longer in a procreating energy, and is now utilizing that procreation energy to procreate legacy in the world. That's pretty much the energy. So the energy actually comes inwards. And then women that are doing their inner work at this stage cultivate that energy to create their legacy, their purpose, their mission in the world, to put it out there. So it is the most potent time I've ever experienced of being a woman in my entire life. There's a silence and a respect and a reserve and a divinity about it that is is almost miraculous and almost untouchable. Yet there's this growing silent observation of expanding and evolving. Yet on the outside, it may be just physical body shape and facial change and maybe grey hair. I haven't really been blessed with grey hair yet. And things of alteration, of reflecting the transformation that's going on externally. But what I can say is that I'm not paying so much attention to the external so much as I'm paying attention to the internal shifts that have been occurring incrementally over the last 5 years, and now to the culmination of this point now where I'm sitting in the juice of, okay, so this is who I'm evolving into. And I'm sharing this because sometimes we can journey with a client for a really long time. Like, you can journey with a person for 5 years and they're in transition for the entire time. And it's not about the destination. This is the really key point of this conversation. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about being present to the incremental changes, the transitional changes that are going on in a person, and those incremental changes that are making up the entire destination. Like, so when you get there, it's like, oh, I'm here. It's not a big hoo-ha of, it could potentially, but it's like you don't even realize when you get there that you're there, because the focus hasn't been on the destination. The focus has been on the journey and the internal movement, and that's the focus, and that's the importance. The important part of what we're doing here with transformation is we're focusing on that inner journey and understanding the language of the inner landscape. How do we understand the language? And I suppose it's helped deepen my language skills and capacity in my work just by being present to myself and my own transitions and transformation. So I just wanted to come on here and just say, I'm coming into this very magical time, probably one of the most magical experiences I've had. And on this new moon in Pisces, the end of a Pisces story, for me, it feels quite calm and very peaceful, and I'm very grateful that this journey has come to an end. And the end has been about a softening of not a projection and a laceration of, you spent so many years, doing relationship wrong. None of that at all. Actually, more so looking at it going, you spent so many years learning about relationships and the dynamics of it. And now you've come to this point where you're able to really see the beauty of relationship with self, with other. And that is the essence of what it means for me to be human, and why I feel I'm here is the beauty of human connection. I hope this little conversation has inspired you to go in and to look deeper, to be with self, and to allow your own transformation to occur at this magical time that we're in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your presence. I'll speak to you next time.